So you've set up your hardware wallet, you've written down and securely stored your paper seed phrase backup, but have you ever actually tested whether your backup works? Over the Christmas break, I had a number of people contact me who had gotten into trouble because basically they'd gone to restore their seed phrase onto their wallet and only discovered when they went to do that that there was an error in what they had written down. So we're just going to look quickly at some different ways that you can securely verify the seed phrase backup you have is actually going to work when you need it most. The last thing you want is to think that you're safe, to think that you have working backups, only to discover that they don't work. And if you haven't already done so, hit subscribe, and that way you can stay in the loop about content I make that helps you stay safe in the crazy and often hostile environment that is cryptocurrency. So there's two main reasons why I think it's really worth taking the time to run through your recovery process. Firstly, it helps you to be sure that what you have written down is correct. If you're someone who maybe has multiple copies of your seed stored around the place in geographically dispersed locations, maybe you've split your seed, maybe you've done all these other sorts of things, it's important to make sure and check that you haven't accidentally transcribed something incorrectly in making those copies. I also have heard of people who had lost track of where their seeds were stored, or maybe they'd been accidentally thrown out or something like that. And the first time they found out was when they actually went to try and restore their seed after losing their hardware wallet. Secondly, I think it's worth familiarizing yourself with what the seed recovery process actually looks like for your hardware wallet. In that, most of the ways that users who have hardware wallets end up losing their funds is they get tricked into entering their 24-word seed onto a website. They might have some malicious app that throws some error that makes them think there's something wrong with their hardware wallet, and they'll be tricked into entering their seed into what's essentially a malicious app that will steal all their funds. So it's really helpful for your own security to be familiar with what the actual legitimate process for secure seed recovery will look like on your device. For all the mainstream wallet manufacturers, the process for verifying your seed phrase backup actually looks and works identically to if you are restoring an existing seed phrase back onto the wallet. So it's worth getting familiar with that. Another important factor is that while most modern wallets these days require you to verify that your seed phrase is correct when you initialize them, that wasn't the case a couple of years ago. So if you've been in this space for a while and you've just had the same wallet the whole way through and never actually checked your seed, it's entirely possible that you made an error transcribing when you first set it up and have never noticed. And even still today, there are some wallets that don't really prompt you to check your seed phrase at all as part of the initialization process. So yeah, it's really, really worth running through and testing that seed. Another situation I know a few people had who contacted me over the Christmas period was where they would have multiple seed phrase backups that they had lying around. And maybe they'd switched wallets 2 or 3 years ago and they simply didn't know which one was the correct backup anymore. It's worth going through, making sure that you know where your backups are kept, that you know they're correct, and you actually have kept the right seed phrase. I'll create some separate videos that look at how to do this in detail for all the major wallet manufacturers, but the fact of the matter is it's pretty straightforward. So if you're using Ledger, basically, if you just go into Ledger Manager and look at the sort of app catalog, you'll actually notice there is an app called Recovery Check. And you just install that on your Ledger Nano S or your Ledger Nano X, and basically it will prompt you to enter your seed and you're good to go. The thing that this one doesn't do though is if you have a BIP39 passphrase enabled and tied to the pin that you're using when you run this tool, it'll actually say that your seed phrase is wrong. So if you have a BIP39 passphrase on a ledger, you need to run this recovery check on the pin number that doesn't have the passphrase hidden wallet or anything like that enabled. That said, I have come across people who had forgotten they were using a BIP39 passphrase on Ledger, so it is a worthwhile exercise to do on your Ledger Nano as well, just to make sure you're on top of the way you're using your device. For Trezor, basically it's the same for all different Trezors, so you just log into the Trezor wallet, you click on the wallet picture, and then go into Advanced, and if you scroll down, there'll be an option saying Check Recovery Seed. So you just click on that, and it'll give you some instructions and say continue. If you've got a Trezor 1, it will basically be a process where you'll be entering things on your computer while reading instructions off the screen of the Trezor. If you have a Trezor Model T, all of it happens on the Trezor itself. And if you have a Keepkey, you just need to go basically into the Keepkey Chrome app, and you click on this little cog, and you just say test recovery sentence, and it will run through the recovery process on there. And if you are having a lot of trouble with the Keepkey Chrome app, then you can also just use the command line Keepkey Python library and do it that way, but that's a bit beyond the scope of this video. But anyway, it's something that'll take you probably about half an hour to do from start to finish if you've never done it before. And like always, when you're dealing with your seed phrase, you need to be careful in the way you handle that, in the way you do that. So it's something that's best to do in a quiet place on your own, not in a public place, library or whatever. And, when you're working with your seed phrase, you don't want to just have cameras looking at it as well. So, doing this in front of your computer with a webcam pointing at it is generally probably not a good idea either. Because again, if someone has your seed phrase, they have all of your crypto. If you look and your hardware wallet doesn't actually support this, I'd recommend you contact the vendor and ask for this feature, because I think it's an important safety feature. If you really want to do this but your wallet doesn't allow you to do it easily, I'd suggest that you use Tails Linux, run Ian Coleman's tool, and essentially follow the process of how to do this in an air-gapped amnesic environment that I've covered in some previous videos. If you are doing this with Ian Coleman's BIP39 tool, all you need to do is basically load up this tool in an air-gapped environment like Tails, enter in your seed phrase and your BIP39 passphrase, and what you're looking for is to make sure the addresses you see that Ian Coleman's tool is generating are the same ones that your wallet is producing. It'll work for any BIP39 wallet, but again, I think it's always better to do this on your hardware wallet if it supports it. If in the process of checking your recovery phrase you discover that what you've got written down in your paper backups is actually wrong, then I would suggest to you that you create a new seed and move the crypto onto that new seed and start using that one from now on. Because again, operating any sort of hardware wallet without a backup that works is a really, really dangerous way to be, because there is very little recourse other than using tools like BTC Recover if you've got an error in here and haven't noticed until you go to restore it. So again, a few minutes of practice every year to find your seed, to reassemble it, to input it into your wallet, whichever brand that is a really worthwhile exercise that helps you to make sure your backups have integrity, that they'll work when you need them to work, and it also helps you to know what the legitimate process for securely entering the seed on your device is, so that you can spot a scam if you get prompted to do so through some malware. Thanks for watching. I hope that was helpful. Hit like if you think that other people would find this video useful, and hit subscribe if you'd like to be kept in the loop about future content I make that helps people stay safe in the crypto space and to recover if they get into trouble. If you have any questions about this video or a topic that you'd like me to cover, just leave a reply.